Video game playing, colloquially known as gaming, is a hobby that has only been growing in popularity. With this increasing audience, game developers and studios alike have started making a shift towards increasingly complex games. As a result, these games require both more storage space and computing power to run. But I don't know much about that stuff because 70% of my game catalog is made up of quirky little passion project indie games. Yet somehow, those indie games hold my attention way better than most of the AAA stuff does most of the time. But how is that possible? How can anyone add such depth to such small games? Well, there are many answers to that question, but the one I want to talk about in this video is something called emergence. Emergence is a word used to describe what happens when a bunch of simple parts come together to make something more complex. Now, that definition doesn't really sound like it relates to games all that much, but that's kind of why this video is here. I've gathered a few games that I think have some really interesting emergent gameplay elements that will hopefully give you a better example of the way emergence can work in games. And this is 100% not a trick so that I can talk about my favorite games for a few minutes. Anyways, first up we have Noita. Noita is a magical action roguelike set in a world where every pixel is physically simulated. Noita was first released in early access in 2019 by the studio Nola Games. Noita's gameplay loop is pretty simple. You spawn in, rampage through the working class, and then use their money to make better weapons. A pretty standard roguelike, all things considered, except all things are not being considered. Cause with Noita's wand system, you can make some crazy stuff. Like, for example, if you find the right spells, you won't have to rampage through the working class anymore because you can spawn an eldritch beast to do it for you. But maybe you still want to fight, but you're a little afraid of dying. Well, don't worry, because this wand will heal you wirelessly forever. Infinite distance, no strings attached. Or maybe you're so successful, you've run out of things to kill. No need to worry, because there's a wand that can literally teleport you to a parallel dimension instantly. Stocked with fresh wands, fresh enemies, fresh everything. And the best part about all these wands is that not a single one of their effects was intended by the devs. So basically, they're all bugs. Noita's tagline is every pixel is simulated. And that means that every pixel is simulated, not just the ones on screen. So as you descend down into the mountain, you'll hear explosions where enemies have knocked over barrels and started fires. You'll find pools of liquid where stuff has been knocked over. And you'll find empty pedestals where enemies have picked up wands and have usually died like 4 centimeters to the right of that wand. What I'm getting at here is that Noita is absolutely full of emergent phenomena. Like I was saying before, emergence is when a bunch of simple parts come together to make something more complex. In Noita, basically everything can interact with any other thing, and that's emergence. I find emergence so cool because it creates mechanics in games that even the developer might not have intended to add. I know that's the definition of a bug, but if it's cool, then the developer can pretend that they meant to do that the whole time. Anyways, this means that even after a dev stops supporting a game and they think there's no more content, there might still be more because of emergence. And a lot of the times, this new content is discovered by, in the nicest way possible, nerds. The type of people who will take Noita spell building and turn it into a full-fledged science. I mean, it has gotten so bad that Noita YouTubers feel the need to create instructional courses on wand building just to help out new players. But believe me, Noita nerds have nothing on the nerds in this next game, okay? Every pixel is simulated. This game will have you believing every particle is simulated, okay? Every atom is simulated. OEK is a program that some company made to show off their physics engine in 2008 and then immediately abandoned. In the game, there's a panel with a bunch of materials that you can use to draw with in the sandbox area. And with the keyboard, you can combine 2 different materials into composite materials that have multiple properties. Also, when you save a simulation, it prints out a little text document where you can go in and then alter some of the physical properties, like how big the draw radius is or how fast fire burns, for example. I know this game doesn't look all that complex, okay? But hold on, because while this game might not be all that impressive alone, What's really impressive is the people who have basically taken up the role as OE cake physicists, okay? For some reason, and I'm not hating, okay, I'm not hating, these people have spent a significant amount of their time experimenting and cataloging every emergent phenomenon in the entire game. And let me tell you, the depth that some of these people go is unlike anything I have ever seen before. The amount of time these people put into this game is insane. I mean, they literally created a working combustion engine that uses explosive fuel to push a car, and then they made a wiki article that tells you how to do it. And my favorite part is the way they name their articles, okay? Like, there's documents on nanomechanical logic gates, entangled particles, there's ghost matter. Like, with other game wikis, you learn how to, like, get to the next location or, like, get an item. With OE Cake, you learn how you can perform your own supercritical particle experiments, bro. Like, how? Okay, I'm gonna read one from the theoretical physics section, which is real, obviously. Of course it's real. And keep in mind, when I'm reading it, this is what the game looks like, okay? It looks like this, okay? Depending on what you believe about physics and how OE cake results relate to the real world, I believe it is possible to simulate something that resembles a time crystal. A theoretical object that has a repeating structure and organization over the time dimension, with movement an integral part of its being. It never finds equilibrium, yet you can't extract energy from it. The motion can't be used to perform work of any kind. It's not like OE cake follows the laws regarding the conservation of energy or anything, but it does have some physics that can form unusual, self-moving structures that have a unique temporal structure. One such example is the powder-snow reaction, which forms undulating masses of particles that never stop moving, but also, sort of, can't really be used to move things. OE cake only simulates baryonic matter, so it's not like we can make an energy field or something, but it may be possible to classify the particle motion as a wave-like or phononic. It feels like a document you'd find in like a horror game in a room with a bunch of corpses on the ground and there's like an exploded machine in the center or something. I think the only reason these people have devoted so much of their time to playing OE Cake is because they've already figured out our real-world physics. It's boring to them. Like, if any of these people decided to switch over to a science field, humanity would progress like 40 years technologically. We just immediately jump up to a Type 2 civilization. Anyways, I just think it's pretty cool how even 15 years after the game came out, and 15 years after the last update, I assume, this game has new content that can still hold anybody's interest. Also, similar to Noita, no one can really 100% say whether or not any of this emergent stuff in OE Cake is actually a bug or not. Which makes me think, if the developers of these games were just a little more intent on maintaining their vision, then we wouldn't have the parallel dimension wands and there would be no OE Cake theoretical physics. Except in that timeline, I wouldn't be surprised if OE Cake like brings itself back into existence like the bootstrap paradox or something. I don't know. Alright, while we're on the topic of nerds, let's switch over to a more mainstream game, because I can't go a single video without talking about it, apparently. Minecraft. Now, Minecraft has a similar game philosophy to Noita, where you're supposed to be able to build anything or whatever. So most of the emergent stuff kind of comes from that. But, talking about nerds, okay? So, what I'm here to talk about is the technical Minecraft players. Technical Minecraft players are the people out there doing the real work. They're the backbone of the Minecraft community, and I'll stand by that. They figure out how Minecraft mechanics work, and then they use that information to build super farms. 2 quadrillion gold per millisecond. If you leave this farm on for more than 1 second, your entire computer will crash type farms. Like this gold farm from this guy, Ilmango, generates so much XP as a byproduct that periodically they literally have to burn it all, otherwise the game will slow down. And so I was building this same gold farm, right? And right next to each of the little places where the piglins are supposed to fall down, you gotta put these buttons here, okay? And I was confused because what purpose could those buttons possibly serve? So I was watching the video and this guy says,
there are buttons right next to the drop chutes because there's an edge case where it could happen that a baby zombified piglin could spawn on top of a chicken, and if it's right in front of those blocks where the buttons are, the time that they are on the magma blocks wouldn't even be enough to kill them, to kill the chicken. So the baby zombified piglin wouldn't die off because of the fall damage, because the chicken would just slowly fall down, and then they would get stuck down here at the collection system, and that's why we have the buttons there.
How did anybody discover that? Like, how could anybody realize that that is a possible problem? Can these people just run like like they've played so much Minecraft that they can just run it in their mind? They can look at a farm and just be like, on block X 2567, Y 60, Z 340. That block has a 2% chance to spawn a size 0 magma cube, which has a 0.4% chance to jump over on the edge of the block, which prevents spawning for a piglin for 27 ticks before it dies. In order to fix this issue, it is imperative that we place a single, waxed, lightly weathered, cut copper slab on this exact spot as soon as possible. Like, yeah, it's an edge case, okay? An edge case that a piglin will spawn on a chicken. You know what's also an edge case? That a particle from the sun careens down and flips a bit in my computer, okay? That's an edge case. What are you gonna do to prevent that? Okay, so I don't know how much that part actually has to do with Emergence, but that's okay. Anyways, Emergence is pretty cool, you know, makes games much more replayable, you know, it's like lifelike, you know, life is all about Emergence and stuff or something. Okay, yeah, I've run out of things to say, bye.